by 2030. That's in the next 10 years. What you have done so far, yes, those are probably nothing compared to what our vision is. But yes, it is a very important baby steps that we took in terms of creating more than 100 plus charging points across 7 different cities in India. That includes Delhi, NCR, Hyderabad, Pune, Mumbai, and Ahmedabad. And very importantly, after a significant investment into research and development in technology space, as well as into EV charging network, we hit our first milestone of delivering 10,000 energy units per day. Okay, this was obviously just before the lockdown, we hit this milestone. Post-Corona and unlock O1 and unlock O2, we have recovered 70% of that particular milestone. But yeah, I guess there's a lot to be done in this space in our country. Some of the clientele that we currently serve onto our network, that includes buses as well as cars. And these are a couple of sites. The photographs which talks about our charging depots that we created for buses as well as for cars as well. Now, how this has been made possible is nothing but IoT. Now, IoT, we all understand that this is nothing but an ABC of connecting any equipment to a data network. So far, over the last 15 years, there has been SCADA all around. What we say that data acquisition system through computers. Then came an IoT space, which kind of connected devices or equipment to the cloud software. Now, when we envisage CHARGE+ZONE as an EV charging company, the first thing that came in our mind is that how we are going to monitor it. What are the various protocols and standards that governs this particular space? What is it that we can achieve in the near future? And what is it on a long term that is in store for us? So we embarked upon a very important study into this. And our first step that we took was understanding the underlying protocols. Now, in a simple layman terms, any charger can be connected to the data network as long as this charger is enabled through a Wi-Fi or through a GSM connectivity, as what we call as just putting up a SIM card. Now, you can obviously connect any EV charger as long as it is supported by one global standard. Unfortunately, EV space, electrical vehicle industry, which started somewhere around 10, 15 years ago, where the engineers or the members who were creating the standards were very clear about what they want to do. And as a result, one common charging protocol was created called Open Charge Point Protocol. So this enabled all the charger manufacturer, irrespective of the brand, irrespective of the kilowatt rating, is to bring in what we call as one communication interface, which means that today at CHARGE+ZONE, what we created as a charging management system or CMS, and it is not famously called a CPO, charge point operator. I mean, we get classified in CPO most of the time. So under this charge point operations, the chargers are connecting or rather regularly communicating to our CMS, which is hosted on the cloud. And obviously the charger, there is a gun, as you have seen here. Let me just pop back. So you have a charging gun which is connected to the vehicle. So it doesn't just deliver voltage and current, let's call it the kilowatt power, but very importantly, it has a communication interface which fetches various parameters which are available on the BMS on the vehicle side as well as on the charger side. So this led to a creation, what you call as manufacturer agnostic platform that we created, which is principally based on the IoT parameters. Now, here is our current technology landscape. Surely, most of you are aware. Well, this is based on certain database standards, certain programming languages that one can use to develop such a technology platform. Having said that, this is a glimpse of the architecture. What we have been able to do. Sorry for being very cluttered on this little screen. But fundamentally speaking, there is an information layer because everything starts with what you call acquiring the data. So when we always talk about IoT, the first thing that comes is acquiring the data through the communication interface. Now, there are various kinds of data, which I mentioned earlier, is coming from the BMS, that is battery management system of the vehicle, as well as from the charger. And obviously, then you create an infrastructure layer, which is nothing but a huge data pile, which is essentially residing on the database. And then there are various service components that you can deliver. So today at CHARGE+ZONE, for example, we have a user app which is hosted on Android and iOS both. And using the user app, which is not just a locational intelligence, but it is entirely a transactional process between the user and the charging process. So that includes obviously the various APIs that is being shared between the various services, which are there are various compartments into the services, such as whether we talk about the charging transaction, the payment gateways, the various driver management, the station management, and so on and so forth. And finally, there is a user interface which is offered to various users. It could be OEMs, the EV drivers, various e-mobility stakeholders, and so on. So this in brief is what we have as a CMS architecture. Now, this leads me to something which is very complex in nature. Obviously, underlying principles are all various forms of algorithm, which you've got to program in order to create or realize the CMS architecture, which we just saw previously. Thereafter, came various components. Well, I just would like to skip a couple of this, but moving on to what we principally, because when you say IoT, obviously there is a cloud computing, and cloud computing is not really very far from any of the IoT applications that you do. So today, when we started scaling it up, we realized the limitation because obviously there are various kind of cloud packages available in the market. Obviously, there are big four, such as Azure and Google Cloud or AWS and so on. However, there are other third-party cloud service providers as well. However, there will be a challenges on various scalability aspects and integration. So we decided to move on to the Azure. Obviously, Azure offers, it's more of an integrated partnership with Microsoft. It's not just that they are providing us a cloud services, but using their connected vehicle platform as an integrated technology is what we are looking for. So this is our next big development happening this year. But this is just a brief outline of what we have of various devices and processes onto the cloud architecture. So now comes a major thing that so far what happened in the last 18 months is that we enabled e-mobility in general, in the sense that the vehicle comes in and it charges a vehicle can get charged at our charging station. What happens next is the data that gets accumulated. Now, obviously, I think we all understand that data is the next big thing, or this new oil, as has been quoted by many industry captains. So for us at CHARGE+ZONE, it became very quick to realize that the data from e-mobility will be a very crucial deliverable for our stakeholders. Now, when I say stakeholders, there are various car OEMs or the vehicle OEMs. Then there are the vehicle owners, the drivers, and then there are charging infra players like discoms, because after all, you're taking electricity from a local distribution company, and they do have a right to ask you that where are you using this electricity for? So they are the next thing. And obviously, then there is government, like RTO and all. So there is going to be a very complex web which is now getting created, and we got to really work through this maze of algorithms, of data structures, and so on, and bring a very strong data analytical engine into place. Because once you have the data, then you got to really create more information layers and deliver it to various stakeholders. So let me also quickly highlight that all of this is based on what we call as Open Charge Point Protocol. So OCPP, as when we say as Open Charge Point Protocol, is a global standard, and it's a global standard in terms of the what we call. And fortunately, we have a standardization, just like a USB stick, for example. Though a laptop are hardly non-standardized, but fortunately, there are various components on a laptop, various sockets, and let's say USB socket, which are standardized, and that has really helped for a seamless transfer. So same thing is governed here under OCPP, which is the Open Charge Point Protocol interface. This is actually governed by Open Charge Alliance, based out of Netherlands. And obviously, you can later on Google and try to read more articles, a lot of information floating on the net on OCPP. Obviously, OCPP has graduated from 1.6, where it all started, to 2.0.1, which is a far advanced version of this protocol. Because as I said, that there will be, that when most stakeholders are joining into this, there will be more demand of various kind of information. Yeah, as I said, it's just moving beyond basic electrical parameters. It is all about the vehicle information, the convenience for driver, the locational intelligence, and so on. So there's a lot of word called, I mean, smart word is very popular these days, right? You have smart cities and smart networks and so on. So EV charging also has not left behind. They have, this protocol has brought in what you call as smart charging. And when it says smart charging, is more to do with the electrical interface rather than any of the tech interface. I think most of us are familiar with contract demand in the electrical networks, right? If you're running a factory, you will have certain contract demand. At home, you may have 5, 6, 10 kilowatt contract demand, or sometimes we call it connected load or sanctioned load also. So a smart, and we also understand that all this contract demand is governed by fixed charges by the local discom, right? Whether you consume electricity or not, you still pay those fixed charges. So in electrical EV charging networks, in order to reduce the overhead cost, which is nothing but a fixed charges, the smart charging comes into play. In other words, that if I have connected a charger of, let's say, 100 kilowatt, but I can still manage with a fixed demand of 50 kilowatt, because knowing very well that not 100 kilowatt is not consumed for every minute or every hour. These vehicles are not really going to come in 24/7. So this smart charging really helps in optimizing several of the commercial overheads for running the EV charging networks. Having said that, there are, as I said, when we talk about the standardization part, and why I really need to underline this for the sake of this audience here on this webinar, is you are dealing with, in EV charging space, you are dealing with two giants, the automotive giant and the power industry. One is very, very aggressive, and sometimes other power industry is sometimes very equally regressive, unfortunately. That brings to something very important, that we need to learn or rather communicate in a language that everybody understands, and that is the language of standardization, and hence this protocol. So various IEEE, ISO initiatives are there by these organizations to bring a lot of sense to this interface, and some of this the protocol or the standard numbers which I'm just sharing with you will really help you to conceive some of the ideas or new challenges that you may come across. So this is a typically proprietary CMS. It's a user interface. I'm just restricting myself, sharing very, very basic screenshots, but that's how we monitor each of these charging points. And when I say unmanned charging stations, we really mean it. I don't really want people to freak out when we say unmanned. Something unmanned in India, such as a charging station, which is akin, very similar to a petrol pump, is very unbelievable thing, right? But in order that the EV charging becomes more competitive in a very, very price sensitive market like India, it is very important that you really contain your running expenses. And such a platform, an IoT backed platform like the CMS, comes very, very handy, not in terms of monitoring, but also in terms of remote control, diagnostic analysis. If there's a failure in the charger, you can still, apart from monitor, you can really go ahead and also run various diagnostic tools of checking onto the chargers, various kind of faults. It could be anywhere as simple as electrical faults or a complex embedded software issues. Everything can be monitored through CMS. Well, this is just an app, which is basically a transactional app which communicates to our CMS, which is a DNA or what you call a central idea of an EV charging network. And finally, last but not least, is all about data monetization, because as I said earlier, that the data is a king here, and currently there are no takers of this data. Obviously, the electric vehicles are gradually increasing in the market. But as we speak, there will be a lot more to come, and many people who will be wanting. So, for example, let me just share one new guideline that came from Ministry of Power, and they indicated that anybody is free to put up an EV charging station, but as long as you have a network service provider, NSP as they call it, and what we are today are also an NSP, right? So our entire CMS and IoT-based CMS runs these network services behind the charger. It's invisible to the user, but it is very, very important for compliance with various government guidelines. So the data of equipment will be required, or the chargers could be failure, could be for performance issues, or could be performance advantages. The charging equipment makers will like to have it. The discoms will like to understand that, hey guys, are you really using this electricity for EV charging or for something else, right? So they really want to know such kind of verified data. Various EV owners, fleet operations want to understand where their vehicles are moving, where they are charged, how much they have charged, what was the state of charge, what is the mileage, and so on. And obviously, there are various policymakers who will want to have the access to this data. So that's a very, very interesting angle which this data generated through the IoT platform brings on the table. So this is in all in a nutshell that brings to this exciting world of technology-driven EV charging networks in this industry. So thank you so much for your time. If you have any questions, we'll be happy to address it.
Thank you so much, sir. It was a wonderful, wonderful session, Mr. Hariyani. Sir, a very interesting question coming up. How big do you see, or do you think is the opportunity for such, EV, IoT-based EV charging systems in India?
Yeah, so let's put it this way. You cannot run an EV charging station without an IoT. As I mentioned, that this starts with our first biggest policy maker, and that is Ministry of Power, right? So it's the Ministry of Power's responsibility to deliver the electricity to the EV charging infra players. So they have made a very mandatory thing that you're free to put up a public charging infrastations, public charging EV stations, as long as you are able to govern it by the network service provider or by the charge point operator. So without this IoT platform, you cannot do it. Yes, you can put up EV charging, but maybe for your personal use at your home. That's all you can do it. Nothing more than that. That's the reason this IoT becomes a very central idea and the business DNA of EV charging networks.
So another interesting question with a follow-up is, if somebody invests in setting up such a setup on a large scale, right?
Yes.
How much time can one start to see returns coming in?
Yeah. So in India, currently, the individual consumer, as I say, B2C market simply does not exist. I think when people like you and me still do not own an electric car, and I think gradually this personal mobility, yes, post-COVID, things are going to change, but it has all about shared mobility for the last 5 to 6 years. And that's also one of the reasons of the diminishing returns on the personal mobility front as well. However, having said that, currently when we focus on the B2B and B2B2C segments, that is large fleets and all, that is where the current business case is very, very strong, where the returns is within 3 years of the investment made. So let's say if you invest today, by 2023, you have the returns back in your pocket. But on the public charging, on the B2C front, we are still very, very far away. Yeah. So I would really don't recommend to anybody rather to invest into a public charging station which is meant for the open market, because the vehicles are yet to come.
Perfect. So next question, how about using solar grids for such systems?
Yeah, very excellent question. Actually, we just signed up a new contract yesterday, and soon we'll make it public. But this is for a bus charging station, which is solar driven now. So we have decided to, so let's put it this way. An EV charging station is connected to the local discom, right? So you have a local, it's a very simple, it's a local switch yard, there's nothing complex here. It's a very classical electrical application. However, solar rooftop offers a great opportunity to optimize the cost. Although, of course, it's a part of your clean tech drive and so on and so forth. And though there is always going to be a high reliability on the local grid to begin with. But solar rooftop brings a daytime integration. Now, fortunately, as you all know, all the rooftops in India, in all the states, the solar rooftop policies are driven by the net metering mechanism. So really that investment is a great idea. So today we have just signed up for more than 25 buses in eastern part of India, wherein it's in one of the major city there, where 25 buses will be flying for the general public, and they will be charged using a solar powered EV charging station. But once again, solar will not cater to 100% of the requirement, but significantly, at least I would say 35 to 40% of the daily needs.
So this is a very good question. I think an individual from the audience wants to know why do you think is the EV adoption rate slower in India than other countries?
Right. So I guess EV adoption in India started very late. In fact, I would say that some of these photographs are pretty rare, right? These cars or these buses, we just see in media as they get launched. But let's say that our national electric mobility mission this started in 2018. So probably we were, as a country, we were very late in defining the policy to begin with. Secondly, there was a major economic downturn, and I think most of the people in the industry are aware that it's not due to COVID. It started almost a year and a half ago, when the automotive downturn began, and the lesser investments or there were relatively lesser purchases of the vehicles. But at the same time, electric mobility mission also got launched. So the OEMs we did not really had major incentive to launch new models. But a year ago, government launched the FAME2 policy, which is a 10,000 crore demand incentive program. And that has started pushing to begin with the large fleet operators, both for buses and cars, to go electric. So adoption has started. It's slow, it's gradual. But in the four-wheeler space, it has been relatively slower. But if you look into three-wheeler space, that has really started. I mean, it started almost 5 to 6 years ago with the lead acid cell battery. But now, even with the lithium-ion batteries, that space has become very competitive, and you'll see several hundreds of thousands flying on the road over the next 2 to 3 years.
Perfect. So while I don't know whether you would like to take this question or not, but the question is, what's stopping companies like Tesla to venturing into India?
Right. So I guess it's all about the timing of the market, right? So when there is, we as a country have seen this slowdown of the economy in the last 2 years, and on the other side, I think Tesla has a lot many other priorities in other markets, particularly the Euro market. They are setting up a plant in Berlin and another one in UK. They already started the second plant in China after US. So I guess there are other markets which are catching up much faster because the adoption of EV started much earlier over there. In our country, because we have been lagging behind by a few years, that's also probably one of the India as a country remains a lower priority for Tesla.
Perfect. Sir, I think this is a very generic question, but I think this may interest you. Is setting up car charging stations in basements of apartments, are they any different from normal charging stations?
Yeah, not at all. Not at all. They're exactly the same. Just you have to be careful that in the basement you have a very lesser GSM connectivity. So if a charger is working on a GSM network, that is on your SIM card based data network, you will have a challenge. But you can put it in a basement and connect it to a local Wi-Fi router. It's the same. And a basement is a great idea, by the way. Yeah.
Perfect. So, sir, I think those were all the questions. I think somebody wants to also, reach you out if you're looking for channel partners. So I would request you to share your email ID as well so that people can connect with you
Sure. Let me
in
forward the
case
last
they
slide.
have any questions or queries.
Right. Please drop an email to
Guys,
us.
Guys, that's the email for Charge Zone. You can address is to Mr. Kartikey, and you can also visit their website, which is www.chargezone.co. Mr. Kartikey, it has been a pleasure hosting you today. This session was very awesome. Thank you so much for sharing the knowledge, sir. It's leaders like you that keep the world going and don't shy away from sharing what they have learned over their years of experience. Kartikey, sir, we thank you once again on behalf of Electronics for You Group and India Technology Week team. And we hope to see you back here in the August edition of the same as well. Now, sir, apart from the audience as well as you, I would request you to check out the expo booths at India Technology Week because there are a lot of cutting edge technology and components and a lot of other things on showcase which might interest you for developing such ecosystems. Thank you so much, Kartikey, sir, and you have a wonderful day.
Thank you, everybody. Yeah. Thank you, EFI.